Hello guys, it's me, and today I'm at Alex Bay at Thousand Islands. In this video I'll be taking the boat tour, but first, ice cream! Okay, so I'm in the ice cream shop right now. I just got ice cream. I'm surprised because I asked for small, and this is their small. It's chocolate chip cookie dough. Okay, I'm gonna try it. That's pretty good. So I'm here waiting. I'm about to come aboard the ship. It's over there. And I'm really excited to go aboard the ship. I'm waiting for my dad. He's almost here. Alright guys, we're going in. Okay. This is actually so cool. We're actually going on board right now. Cool. Let's see. This is so cool. We're on the boat. Okay, so this is so cool. You can actually see a lot from here. Okay. Why did you push me? Okay.
I think later you can walk around, right?
Now, stay seated. Okay, the boat started moving. Whoa, this is so cool. It started moving. Wow, this is so cool. Okay. Started off moving very slowly. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll skip to the part when it's actually moving. Wow. The boat's actually moving now.
This is so good, right?
Yes. It's actually...
Bless you. Somebody sneezed. I don't know who it was.
Oh.
Good afternoon. One person. Okay, two people. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome aboard the Alexandria Belle. My name is Danielle. I'm going to be your tour guide. Driving us around, we got Captain Jaden. He's one of the finest of the fleet. Whoop whoop, go Captain. Downstairs, we've got Molly and Tracy. Second deck is concession. They'll help you out with snacks, drinks, sunglasses, anything you might need down there. Now we are regulated by the Coast Guard, so we have a few safety things we have to get out of the way first. We're going to start with our life vests.
They're Alexandria.
They are a common yoke style life vest. They're very easy to use. You pull it apart, slip it on over your head, wrap the strap around your back, clip it, and pull it tight. I'm going to demonstrate. These are located in the white boxes all around the ship. They come in two sizes, adult and child. Please do not help yourself to them. If we need them, the crew will hand them out to you. The benches you guys are sitting in up here, they are not bolted down. Please be careful. Don't lean on them, don't stand on them. They could fall over, you would fall over, and we don't want that. There's no smoking of any kind. That's cigarettes, vapes, e-pens, cigars, marijuana, corncob pipes. If you can smoke it, please just leave it in your pocket for later. We might hit some breeze while we're out here today. Please make sure you've got a good hold of your pointy hats, regular hats, scarves, small children, small animals, anything that could blow away. The river has a strict no return policy. Over here to the left, we are going by Casino Island. This was the site of the area's one and only gambling facility. It was built about 1920. But you see, the gentlemen that would frequent that establishment are the same gentlemen whose wives didn't want them going there. So, about 2 years after it was built, the wives got together, put a plan into play, and burned it down. Today it is part of the Alexandria's scenic park view. They built that cute little bridge you see there. Now we are coming into what is known as Millionaires Row. The turn of the century, 100 different millionaires came to the area, fell in love with it, and started building mansions for summer homes. Some of these homes still stand today. I will point them out to you, give you some information. Some have been torn down over the years. Some have been burnt down over the years, whether it be intentional or unintentional. I did say intentional. You might be sitting there thinking, who on earth would intentionally burn down their own mansion? This was during the Great Depression. Millionaires were losing their money, so they came up with a plan that if they burnt down their mansions, insurance companies would pay out. That's not what happened. They failed to realize the insurance companies had no money either, so they burnt down their homes for nothing. Over here to the left, this is Cherry Island. This big green home you see is Twin Pine Tree House. Twin meaning two. There were two identical homes built right next to each other by best friends Abraham Abrams and Nathan Strauss. They worked together, they practically lived together. But the second home that was deemed a fire hazard because they were built too close, so it was torn down and it didn't go to waste. The foundation was turned into a swimming pool for the remaining home. Now together they gave us the store that we know today as Macy's. Some of you might remember A&S department stores. That was these guys. Now Abrams, he actually passed in that home there, but the Strausses, they were victims on the sinking of the Titanic. This white home here with the red roof, that is called Casa Blanca. If your Spanish is a little rusty, that means White House. We like to keep the names original out here. This was built by a Cuban sugar plantation owner for his daughter. Today though, it is rented out for different large events, weddings, tea parties. On the seawall here, you're going to see dragons and gargoyles and lions, oh my. These were put here to keep out evil Canadian spirits. Now, I don't mean evil spirits like ghosts and ghouls. I mean evil spirits like alcohol. This was during Prohibition, but really that was all a ruse. Because if you notice the keyholes, those would hold lanterns at night that would be lit to signify that it was safe to come over and get your alcohol. Now, Cherry Island is responsible for 25% of the alcohol that came into the country during Prohibition. They were raided many times, never caught. The last home on the island is Winley Lodge. This was built by the Fraser family of Sylvan, New York. It was the last large home built out here during the Victorian era. Now, they built here specifically so they could be closer to their country club right across the river. That yellow and green building, that's the Thousand Islands Country Club. It has two 18-hole golf courses. If you missed it, that's okay. When we come back around, you'll get a better view. Now, that is a quick 5-minute boat ride, so it's not too bad. Anyone a fan of Kellogg's cereal snacks? Yeah, so the people that gave us Kellogg's, they also owned this home at one point. Now, I did just a couple of weeks ago have somebody tell me that they were serial killers, but I don't know if I believe it. Alright, so everything's been on the left so far. You guys on the right, you ready to see something on your side? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to come back over here to the left. Just kidding. Feeling left out yet? Over here on the right, this is called Devil's Oven. If you look at the water line, you're going to see an opening into that island. That goes back to a 30-foot cave. That cave is where the famous river pirate Bill Johnston hid out for 3 days after he burnt down the British steamship, the Sir Robert Peel, during the Patriots' War. Like I said, he hid out for about 3 days. They followed his daughter to the island one night, bringing him supplies. They captured him, tried him for piracy, sentenced him to life in prison. Lucky for him, though, he only did about 2 years. He got a presidential pardon, that allowed him to become the first lighthouse keeper of the Rock Island Lighthouse, which is about 7 miles ahead of us in Fisher's Landing, New York. Now, he did live and work at the lighthouse till about the age of 83 when he passed. Back over here on the left, this is called Cuba Island because from the air, it looks like the island nation of Puerto Rico. I was going to say, you were going along with it for a minute. Looks like Cuba, that's why it's called Cuba Island. Over here on the right, this was the site of the famous Wawuna Inn Boatel. The boathouse here on the end is original, but the home sits where the original boatel sat. Now you might notice the dock here looks pretty new compared to the dock back here. The winter was not kind to this dock. It's a pretty bad number on it. They had to tear it out and put a new one in. We get harsh winters, a lot of snow, a lot of ice, so that can happen out here. Now if you're asking yourself what in the world is a boatel, it's much like a motel, hotel, or Holiday Inn today, except it's only accessible by boat. The original boatel did burn down in the 70s, but that was unintentional. Over here on the left, this is Keewaydin State Park. It's one of 26 parks located in the area. It's accessible by boat and by car. It has an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now originally this was a large plantation that was slowly torn down over the years. The only thing remaining from the original plantation is the seawall that you see here and the gazebo that's up ahead just a little ways. Keewaydin has one of the most popular marinas in the area. So popular that there is a 3 to 5 year wait limit to get a slip there. The big reason why it's so popular is they built a break wall that protects the boats in the harbor from the waves of the river. Now, being out here on the river today, most of you probably figured you'd see some sort of wildlife today, right? I could almost bet none of you thought you would see any bears today. Over here on Comfort Island, the people that currently own Comfort Lodge, they installed these 3 bears. They're quite friendly. They're waving at you. The one on top of the home, that's a 6-foot-tall bronze bear.
The Bear Island.
It's quite heavy, so it's not the most accurate weather vane out here. It sits on top of a widow's watch, which is where the wives of sailors would sit, watch, and wait for their sailors to come home. Now, Comfort Island and Nimabin Island here at the back, they used to be 2 separate islands, but as the water level of the river went down, less and less water between them, they eventually filled it in, creating 1 island. Now, Nimabin Lodge here on the back side has a bit of a sordid history. You could almost call it cursed. We sure do. The guy that originally bought it, or built it, sorry, he was a stock market guy. He was very superstitious. He was convinced that the devil was going to catch him in a corner. So he took his favorite room, the living room, built it completely in a circle. Well, he gave out some bad stock advice. The client was not happy. Came up, found him, killed him in that very room. Now the people that bought the home after that, they were into speedboats. They had a speedboat named the Chuckle. Got into a boating accident with it, but everybody was okay, minor injuries. They replaced that boat with another speedboat, called it the Giggle. You see the trend here? But what happened to that boat was no laughing matter. They got into an accident with a tour boat, much like the one we're on today. Everyone on the tour boat was fine, no injuries. Everyone on the speedboat perished. So we're just going to keep our distance from that place. If you look back over your left shoulder, you will see the marina that I was telling you about. You can see that break wall protecting the boats. Now, we only have a few man-made islands out here in the Thousand Islands. Over here to our left with the clock tower, this is one. This is called Artificial Island. Now, the guy that originally built this, his name was Mr. Rhodes. Ladies, Mr. Rhodes was the kind of man that any woman dreams of marrying. He brought his wife to the area and said, honey, pick an island, any island. There's at least 1,000 islands to pick from, and she couldn't find one she liked. So he built her one. Well, a couple of years later, she decided she didn't like the island, didn't like the river, didn't like him, and left all 3. Today, the home is for sale for $2.7 million.
1.7.
Now, if you look off to the left, you're actually going to get to see a big ship. It is going to be going under that bridge. That bridge is the first of 5 spans making up the Thousand Islands Bridge System. That's the American span. To the left of that bridge, you have mainland U.S. To the right of that bridge, you have Wellesley Island, which is still U.S. Wellesley Island is the biggest Thousand Island that the U.S. has, but it is second biggest overall. The biggest Thousand Island would be Wolfe Island. That is owned by Canada and lies over by Cape Vincent. Now, we did just turn into the St. Lawrence Seaway. The Seaway is one of the longest, freshest, navigable inland waterways in the U.S. It spans 2,340 miles. Starts at the Great Lakes up by Duluth, Minnesota, goes out to the Atlantic Ocean by Montreal. Now, we see 2 types of big ships out here. We see Lakers and we see Salties. The Lakers typically have very broad, very wide bows. The Salties typically have a more pointed, more narrow bow to help cut through the ocean waves. Now, this area that we're coming through here is known as the American Narrows. It's one of the narrower parts of the Seaway, and it used to be even narrower still. This island that's coming up on our right, they wanted to make this area bigger, so they tore down the large home that was there, blew out a third of the island in order to make this bigger. Well, all that to say, it's still not safe enough for 2 ships to come through here. You will only see one at a time. Now, we've got that ship that was behind us, which you may not know it, but we just went around a turn. If you look back behind us, you will notice that the bridge is gone. Didn't even notice that turn, did you? Now, besides that ship, there's another one that we're going to be even closer to. If you look around, you might see it, but my guess is probably not. Your eyes got to be really good because you've got to look down and you've got to look through 150 feet of water. We're going right over top of the Roy A. Jodrey, came through here during a blinding snowstorm, struck a shoal, tore a 75-foot hole in the side of her, and she went down. Now, at the time, this building to our left, that was the Coast Guard, so the crew had a very short swim to safety. However, the next day, 3 divers went down to assess the damage, see what it would take to either bring the Jodrey back up or at least what she had been carrying. But the water was so rough, one of the lines snapped, one of the divers never returned and was never found. Now, the Jodrey, when she went down, she kind of tumbled along the riverbank, so she broke in half, making it even harder to get her out. So they just ended up leaving it there, and they made it a dive zone. In order to do that dive zone today, you have to be a master level diver. You have to be able to use mixed gases and be certified with the Coast Guard. Over here to the left, this is the Coast Guard today. They moved just a short ways up the river. Now, coming up on our left, this is Hopewell Hall. This was owned by the last remaining grandchild of George Bolt. This is Clover Bolt Baird.
By our friends.
The rock in the stone wall that you see there, a lot of that rock came right up out of the riverbed. The home sold in 2021 to the great-grandson of V.J. Noble. It sold for $3.7 million. This next island on our left is Pullman Island. This was owned by Mr. George Pullman. He was the inventor of the sleeper-style railroad car. Now, he also thought it would be a great idea to host a week's vacation for the president at the time. That was Ulysses S. Grant. But there were no buildings yet, so they slept in tents. Brought a lot of media attention to the area, kind of put the Thousand Islands on the map. But overall, Mr. Pullman was pretty well despised. So much so that when they buried him in Chicago, they put railroad ties over his grave to make sure no one ever dug him up.
$1 million.
Why you would dig up a dead body, I'm not sure, but over to the left, you'll get a better view of the Thousand Islands Country Club. Like I said, that's got 2 18-hole golf courses. That is on Wellesley Island. Wellesley Island is one of few islands you'll see today that has year-round residents because they can access their homes via the bridge that we saw earlier. The majority of the islands and homes you see today are going to be summer homes only. This island here to our left is Nobby Island. If I can draw your attention to the front of the home, you will notice those unique pillars. Looks like somebody stacked up large rocks, and the home is basically holding them in place. And that's exactly what's happening there. Kind of makes me want to go over and kick one a little bit. Just want to see what happens. This next island to our left is Friendly Island. This was owned by the Quackenbush family. If you have an older pair of nutcrackers that have a Q or an HMQ on the handle, that's the Quackenbushes. They also gave us what would become the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. They owned Empire Airlines, which would become American Airlines. Now it's actually said that this island, it's so friendly, if you wave at it, even the fence waves back. What's wrong, guys? Was that offensive?
Yeah.
They're filling her in.
Mga sikat na house sa kaya palangkin. Ginawa ko siya.
Nice joke.
This next island on our left is called St. Elmo's Island. St. Elmo was the patron saint of sailors. That anchor is to commemorate the men and women who have lost their lives on the river. The A-frame on top of the island is a replacement to the original home, but the boathouse here on the end, that is original. Now, as we go by, if you look past the boathouse, you're going to see the Swiss Chalet. This was built by George Bolt, and it housed the Swiss engineers that would help to build Bolt Castle. As we come up past this island, if you look through here, you're going to see a cool looking building. That is the Bolt Yacht House. George Bolt was an avid sailor, but there was one part of sailing that he didn't like. He didn't like having to drop his sails. So he built the front doors very tall, so when he was done at the end of the day, all he had to do was drive right in. He never had to drop his sails again. If you're interested in seeing the boathouse today and you're going to the castle, they do offer a package ticket at the castle where you can take a shuttle over and check out the yacht house as well. Now up ahead of us, you will see Bolt Castle located on Hart Island. It's the highlight of any tour here in the Thousand Islands. George Bolt, when he bought Hart Island, it actually was already called Hart Island. The guy that had it before him named it after himself, Senator Hart, and it was spelled H-A-R-T. When George bought it, renamed it Hart Island, and spelled it H-E-A-R-T. Now he bought it with the intent to build a castle for his wife Louise, to show her just how much he loved and appreciated her. He was known for doing things like that. In fact, this small building to the left with the red roof, he built that to show his love and affection for another woman. That woman would be his mother-in-law. The island is known as Just Room Enough, and it's said that one wrong step will land you in the river. You'll notice there's no access to the main island. The first building or structure that I'm going to point out on Hart Island is the Arch of Honor. This was built specifically for a symbol of victory over poverty for George. When he first came to America from Prussia, he was very poor. This is also where they would greet their guests that came to visit. This building here that looks like a sandcastle, that is the Ulster Tower, or the Children's Playhouse. But today we probably would call it George's Man Cave. It has 2 bowling lanes, a billiard room, a library, even a small stage, all meant to entertain his guests. Now the Ulster Tower is the only building on the island that was completed and lived in by the Bolt family. The castle itself rises up 6 stories It has 42 fireplaces, 365 windows, one for each day of the year. Had the first working elevator above New York City. Has an indoor swimming pool. Had the Bolts actually lived in the castle, they would have lived on the second floor. The other floors would have been meant for guests. Now, besides the Bolt family, you could fit 24 other families of 4 in the castle. Now, if you look through here past the trees, you'll catch a glimpse of the Italian Gardens. This is a popular spot during the summer. We hold at least 60 weddings a year here. It was put in Martha Stewart's magazine as one of the top 10 destinations to get married. The last building on the island is the power or pump house. This would house 2 coal-fired generators that would pump power and water to the rest of the island. Comes complete with a clock tower that had chimes in it that were replicas of Westminster Abbey. They would ring every quarter hour and could be heard for miles around. Now, unfortunately, when the Thousand Islands bridge system was completed, they had a celebration complete with fireworks. One of those fireworks went astray, hit the powerhouse, and burned it down. The chimes were lost forever, but the powerhouse was rebuilt. Now, if you look past the powerhouse, you're going to get a better view of the front of the yacht house. You can see just how tall those doors are. Now, as I said, when George Bolt came to America from Prussia, he was very poor. He was only about 13 years old. He came with the intent to be a chicken farmer in Texas. Unfortunately, there had been some unseasonal flooding in Texas, so when he landed in New York City, changed his plan, he adapted, he got into the hospitality industry. He started at the bottom, washing dishes, worked his way up. While doing so, he would meet Louise, who would become his wife, and together they were known for working on projects like the Bellevue Stratford and the Waldorf Astoria. Together, they innovated the hospitality industry. They gave us the sunglasses this way. 8.
Sorry. The
He decided he should do something different, so he left Ray-Ban, created his own sunglass company called Coyote, and gave us the first floating sunglasses known as Bobs. Now, I'm never on the river without my Bobs with throwing ropes and stuff. You never know when they're going to get knocked off your face. Luckily for me, I can just bend over, pick them up, shake them off a little bit, and put them back on my face. Now, I'm not going to throw these in the river for you today and demonstrate that they float. Captain Jaden won't let me stop and pick them up. So no demonstrations today. I do apologize. You're going to have to take my word for it. But downstairs today at concession, we have Coyotes and Bobs on sale for $20. Now, maybe you're the kind of person, I'll get it on Amazon when I get home. That's me. I do that all the time. So I've done the research. The cheapest pair on Amazon is $36, and they're not even the cool ones. They're pretty lame. We've got a ton of styles downstairs. Go down, check them out, see what ones look good on you. Maybe you know someone who is a fisherman who's lost a pair or two to the river. If they say Bobs on them, those are the ones that float. Don't forget, we've got drinks and snacks downstairs. I'm going to take my first break of the tour. I've been talking since we left the dock. That ship is still behind us, so if you haven't seen it yet, check it out, and I'll pick up the tour in just a few minutes.
Okay, so there is a break right now, so I'm just gonna use the bathroom real quick.
Hi, Lonnie. So originally, he was working in Alex Bay and
Old castle.
living in Alex Bay, and we get tourists. We're a tourist town in the summer.
Wow.
So he wanted a retreat, a place to kick back, get away
So
from
that
it
guy
all.
Charles.
But
guy
jokes
over
on
there
him, we bring
works at
boats of
Old
tourists
Castle
right by his front
Island.
door every day, several times a day.
So he built his own island. He bought that island.
Now the home behind that, is
Pretty.
anyone familiar with the Lehigh Valley area of Pennsylvania? Are you from there or just been through there? So Asa Packer, when he graduated college, he thought he deserved a gift, so he built this for himself. His family's claim to fame is they helped to found the Lehigh Valley area, Lehigh Valley Railroad, and the engineering school that's one of the top in the country down there. Now we are getting ready to go right over top of the only underwater feature of the tour. Now you can see it from both sides. It's very, very big. So please don't all go to the same side. We'll tip the boat over. We don't want that. I really don't feel like swimming today. Let's see. It's going under the bow right now. It's under my feet. It's about halfway back. It's about 3/4 of the way back. And it's at the back of the boat. Everybody get a chance to see it?
Wait, what's happening?
Welcome to Canada.
Oh, we're in Canada.
That was the international boundary line. If you actually saw something, please check out our hospital on your way out of town. Just get yourself checked out a little bit there. Now the border between the US and Canada is one of the longest and friendliest borders in the world. When the US and Canada decided to split up the islands, the first thing they were worried about is they didn't want both countries owning the same island and causing conflict. So each country was supposed to have their own islands, split it right down the middle, totally fair. The US got 1/3, Canada got the rest. Fair, right? No? It was based on land mass. The US got the majority of the bigger islands, Canada got the majority of the smaller islands. Now over here to our left, this island with the cross and the flagpole on the top, this is the first Canadian island. I'm going to point out to you guys, this is Pompelli Island. A guy by the name of Francis Stout bought this. Same kind of thing as Lonnie. He wanted a retreat, a place to kick back, relax, and watch the wildlife. But unfortunately, before he could build anything, he passed. His family, wanting to do right by him, put restrictions in the deed that said for 100 years, no one could build on this island. Well, that 100 years has come and gone, but the people that own it now, they still abide by those restrictions by not building. Whenever they're out here, they just put up a tent, kick back, and relax. Now, my favorite part about this island is it's home to a pair of bald eagles. We didn't see any on the first tour. You guys seeing it? Oh, the nest, yep. Yeah, the nests don't move, they're always there. We could see them flying around later. It's an eagle?
What? I don't see an eagle.
She said she saw one. I'm not seeing them.
I
That's
saw a
okay.
nest over there.
Now we did just cross over
Oh, man,
into
I have
Canada,
hiccups.
and we're talking about eagles. So, does anyone know the difference between an American bald eagle and a Canadian bald eagle?
I have no idea.
So a lot of people say the accent, but that's
Well,
not correct. They sound a lot alike. It's actually their wingspan. So an American bald eagle has a
Oh, see,
wingspan,
I saw
of
one.
about 6 feet,
I saw one.
and a Canadian bald eagle has a wingspan of about 2
Oh,
meters.
wow. I saw it. I see. Oh, no, that wasn't an eagle. That was not
You
an
didn't
eagle.
get that joke. It's a math joke. It's the same distance. I'm a homeschooling mom to 2 boys. They don't like my math jokes either, so that's okay. I don't take offense. But they have gotten very good at dad jokes, so we have a lot of fun. Now, when we turned by Elephant's back there, we turned off of the main shipping channel. So our chance to see the big ships is done for now. You won't see any out here. They don't come out this way. But at the end of the tour, when we come back out to the shipping channel, you'll get a chance to see them again. Over here on the right, this is Tar Island. One thing unique about Tar Island is it has some sand beaches. If you've been checking out the terrain as we've been going, you may notice that it's very rocky, there's a lot of trees, but you're not really seeing any beaches. That's because sand beaches are not natural to this area. So what makes Tar Island so unique? Well, the guy that lives at the head of the island has his own heavy equipment company. So it's very easy to put in man-made sand beaches. Now him and his company are also known for helping to put in the pipeline up in Alaska. While he was up there, he had 4 totem poles carved for himself by the Tlingit Native Americans in Ketchikan, Alaska. He's got them out here on the shore, up at the head of the island. You can see them when we go by. Now up ahead of us, you're seeing Rockport. Rockport is considered the sister village to Alex Bay. Originally, before the bridges were put in, there was a ferry line that would go back and forth between the two towns. It was very small, a very small boat pulling a small barge. As it gained popularity, they turned that into a steamboat. By the time the bridges were done being built, they had 2 steamboats in operation. But the bridges were finished, people started taking the cool new bridges, nobody was using the ferry anymore. So Rockport closed it down, and they actually sunk one of the ferries right off the shoreline, making a dive zone. Now that's the second time I've talked about diving out here. It's a very popular area for diving. We have a lot of scuba clubs. There are over 5,000 shipwrecks among the Thousand Islands. That's because there's a lot of shoals that are underneath the water and you can't see them. We are guided by GPS so we can get around safely, but if you don't know the river very well, it can be very dangerous. Now the guys that are out here diving, anytime you see them, even in the middle of summer on our hottest day, they will be in full head-to-toe wetsuits. That is because the river doesn't get much above 50 degrees. Hypothermia can set in very quickly, especially in the water, so they're always prepared. Now, Alex Bay and Rockport are very similar. They both have shops, both have restaurants, both have marinas, both have touring boat lines. Today, obviously, you're on ours, so you might be sitting there asking yourself, well, what's the difference? What am I missing out on the Rockport tour? Well, the big difference between the 2 tours is me. And I mean that quite literally. They don't have any tour guides on the other boat, on the Rockport boat. Everything is pre-recorded, GPS triggered, so they miss all the fantastic jokes that you guys get to hear today. The other big benefit to you guys for being with us instead of them is when we get to the castle, if you're going to the castle, you show them your ticket and you're on the castle premises, that's it. When they get there, they have to go through the customs line, and that can take an hour or more to get through before you're even on the castle premises. Now over here to the right, this gray building, this was built just a few years ago. This is a marina. Rockport's a small town, so when this marina was completed, it was said that they had more parking for their boats than they did their cars. That marina is kind of cool. If you're living off of your boat, it has everything you might need. It has a laundromat, has a gym, even has a liquor store. Now, Rockport was a popular spot during the steamboat era. They would have tons and tons of cordwood ready to go for the steamships. Over here to our left, you'll see these white buoys. Those mark that ferry that I was telling you about that they sunk, that dive zone right there. Over here on the right, you're going to see a little white church. That is St. Brendan's Roman Catholic Church. It's one of the oldest churches on the eastern seaboard, but it also has an interesting history when it comes to alcohol. Keep in mind, Prohibition for America was not the same thing as what Canada was going through, but they would stockpile alcohol in their basement. Town of 500, their church services started to get really big. They would have boatloads of Americans coming to church. The authorities got suspicious, so they stopped in one day, went down in the basement and said, "What is all this?" They simply replied, "Oh, that's just holy water." I don't know how well that went over, but I'm sure it made for some interesting services. Come to church, leave with your liquor. Now, if you've been looking at the water at all since we've left, you may notice that it's very clean, very clear. You are on one of the cleanest rivers in the world. It's about 97% pure. So that means we've got some pretty stiff fines when it comes to littering, starting at $1,000 for dumping in the river. Now, the majority of the river will freeze over in the winter, so people get the bright idea that they're going to drive across the ice to get to Canada. Let me start by saying this is an awful idea. Don't do it. But you think it sounds like fun, you do it anyways. You get partway across, you make it out, but your car goes under. Every day that your car is in the river is a $500 fine. On top of that, you have to hire a dive crew to help get it out. And they're not going to be thrilled about diving in winter. Lastly, did you know your insurance ends at the shoreline, so they're not helping you. So basically the moral of the story is don't take your car across the ice. Take your friend's car. Hey Jaden, can I borrow your truck? Absolutely not, he says. And we are coming into what is known as the Canadian Palisades. It's one of the deeper parts of the river, anywhere from 150 to 250 feet deep. As we come around here, you're going to see a beautiful stone home. It's got a man-made waterfall out there in front. It's actually my home, guys. Yep. No, not really. That would be a long drive to work. Now, earlier I mentioned a guy by the name of E.J. Noble. He was a local guy from Gouverneur, New York. He did some good things. He put in some hospitals around the area. Put one in, that one right there in Alex Bay. He put that in. Put the one in Gouverneur and in Potsdam. He was part of a lot of different businesses. He was known as one of the wealthiest men to come to the area. His brother-in-law, on the other hand, not so much. He had a candy company. Child had choked on the candy. They were facing bankruptcy. E.J. Noble got involved, said, I want to help you turn this company around, make it profitable again. So the very first change that he made is he took the candy, punched a hole in it. That way if a child swallowed it, they could still breathe through it. The next thing he did is he put a very colorful wrapper on it, called it Lifesavers. If you're ever in Gouverneur, New York, they have a large roll of Lifesavers as a statue in memory of E.J. Noble. Now, as I said, he was a part of a lot of different businesses. He was a part of ABC Broadcasting, Paramount Pictures, Beechnut Foods, Rexall Drugstore Chain, Canada Steamship Line. He was a busy man. Now this island off to our right, this is Redstone Island, this was his. He always had a soft spot in his heart for this area. But he would travel the world, go all over the place. When he got up in age, decided it was time to hang up his hat and retire. This home that's up here on the right, the white one, he had that built for himself. And it was aptly named Journey's End. This is where his journey ended. Now I'm going to take my second break of the tour, but I'm going to leave you guys with a challenge. In a few minutes, on the right-hand side, you're going to see a statue. No using your phones, no cheating. I want to know who you think it is. Now I get a lot of interesting answers, which makes it fun for me, but I'll give you a few hints as to who it is not. So it's not Elvis, it's not Jesus. It is a man, so it's not Pocahontas. I've gotten that answer a few times. It's not Trudeau. It's also not Donald Trump. I get that answer a lot. I guess there's some similarities there. I don't see it, but... So like I said, in a few minutes on the right-hand side, you're going to see him. He stands by himself on the bank. You can't miss him. I will come back and we'll talk about it. We'll see who you guys think he is.
Okay. So... So right now, I'm looking for that statue. So I'll just skip to the part when I see it.
Alright, so before I talk about our statue guy, if you look below him, closer to the water, in white, it looks like waves. On the left-hand side of the flag, you're going to see it's a straight line with a curve above it.
Where?
So those are Native American markings. And basically what those are telling us is that there is rough water ahead, carry your canoe. Well, we are not going to get out and carry the boat, so don't worry about it. Kick back, relax. So looking at our statue, who do you think it is?
It's my dad. Yeah.
What? Oh, you read the plaque? Shh, don't tell. Who do you guys think it is? Moses? Not Moses.
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
What? No.
Oldest Ariel.
Oh,
Oh, no, no.
but no.
Can I see
He
it
said
now?
Christopher Columbus. That's a good guess, but no. What'd you say?
Marco Polo. Marco Polo.
No.
I have no idea who that is.
No, that would be much cooler if it was a Viking, honestly. It's St. Lawrence.
I wouldn't know.
St. Lawrence River? St. Lawrence? Yeah. I get that
Oh, St.
response a lot.
Lawrence.
What's he holding?
I have no idea. What is he holding?
It's not a chair.
A canoe?
A map?
table?
Not a
A
map.
table?
A lot of people say it looks like a window pane. It's a cooking grate. So why the heck is St. Lawrence standing on the side of the river holding a cooking grate? Well, St. Lawrence, he was a great guy. He was trying to take money from the church.
I don't know if you could see it, but
The
I
Romans
saw it.
found out and they weren't happy about this. They wanted him punished. They wanted to make an example out of him. So his punishment was to be burned alive on a cooking grate. Yep. His famous last words were, "Flip me over, this side's done."
oh my
Not a
god.
joke. You can look it up. Those are really his last words. Yeah. So what does that have to do with the river? When Jacques Cartier came through here, it was during the Feast of St. Lawrence. Hold on, let me backtrack a little bit. They did not eat St. Lawrence. It was the feast honoring St. Lawrence, okay? There was no cannibalism. But those two things a little too close together. Jacques Cartier came through here during the feast honoring St. Lawrence. There, that's better. All right, over here on the right, we're coming up on one of the more modern mansions in the area. The property has 5 waterfalls on it. You can see 2 from this side, one right there at that brick wall, one right there where the 2 red chairs are. The guest house is like 5 times the size of my house. The home itself, it is said that when they built it, they did so that no matter where you were at in the home, you had a view of the river. Comes complete with a heated driveway, so you never have to plow snow again. It just recently sold for $24 million.
24
Now, I was
million.
told that before it sold, they were renting it out on Vrbo for $8,000 a night. This is the same property that it is rumored that Alan Jackson and Toby Keith were both looking at one point. To my knowledge, though, they never put in purchase offers on the house. Is anyone a fan of women's soccer? Maybe. Abby Womack, her family, this is her island, their family's island, yep. And they're actually out here quite a bit. There's a lot of homes and islands that I've been here 4 years and I've never seen people at, but they are here every year, several times a year. Now the bridge up ahead of us, that is the 5th and final span of the Thousand Island Bridge System. That is the Canadian span. To the left of the bridge, you have Hill Island, Canada. To the right of the bridge, you have mainland Canada. Now when these bridges were being proposed to be built, there was a lot of pushback. There's a lot of people that didn't want these bridges built. They thought it was a waste of time. Because after all, why would you connect up a dirt land in the US, a dirt road in the US to a dirt road in Canada? Made no sense. They nicknamed it the Bridge to Nowhere. Well, it got pushed through. This was during the Great Depression, brought a lot of jobs to people of the area, which was a great thing. The first year that they were open, they saw 1,800 cars. Today, they see 2 million cars a year. the money that you pay to go across these goes right back into the bridge. The guys that work on them, they will start at one end, they'll get a bid, they will scrape, repair, and paint their way across. Takes a couple of years, they'll get to the end, turn around, and do it again. Now, people ask, can you walk these bridges? You can. It's about a 5-mile span from mainland to mainland. But I will remind you that the 1st and 5th spans are suspension spans. So if the wind's blowing, that bridge is moving. No thank you. You go ahead and let me know how it goes. Now some of you look a little concerned, so let me just throw this out here. If anything comes flying off the bridge, guys, don't worry, I'm covered. I do appreciate you worrying about me though, that's really sweet. I kid, we've never had anything come flying off the bridge. People just like to make a wish as we go under. Please do not throw any money in the river though. That is littering. Now, as I said, this is my 4th year here, and in my head, every time I do this tour, you guys are all making the same exact wish that I just made. So thank you for helping me to keep the bridge standing tour after tour, day after day, year after year. I really appreciate the help. Alright, so you guys remember those Native American markings that I pointed out? Rough water ahead, carry your canoe. We're coming into that rough water spot. This area is known as Whirlpool Channel. If you look on either side of the boat, you might see little whirlpools or eddies. The current is a bit faster here. We also are going over a drop-off that is higher than Niagara Falls. Don't worry, you won't feel a thing. Because of that void and the water rushing to fill it in, that's what creates the whirlpools.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the river over here on our left side, we're going to be turning left. We're turning into what is known as Wrong Way Channel. Now, not wrong way channel as in we're going the wrong way, but if you look at the water, the river is actually going the wrong way. It changes directions for just a small spot here. And that's because of everything that's happening in this small area. Because of all this, there has never been a recorded freezing in this area.
Wow, this is so cool. Okay, looks like we're turning. Let's see if this boat tour was actually right.
Over on our left-hand side, this is Georgina Island.
Ooh,
One cool thing about Georgina Island is it has its own mini microbiome. So it has some rare plant species they can't find anywhere else, like Indian cucumber root and pink lady slipper orchid. Georgina Island is accessible by boat to Canadian Park.
This is so cool.
Straight up ahead of us, does anybody know what that big tall thing is sticking up out of the trees?
A lighthouse? I have no idea.
A lighthouse? No, not quite.
Forest house.
Forest house? No. So here's the deal. You guys all look pretty trustworthy. Except for you. I don't know about you. But I'm not supposed to know what it is, which means you guys aren't supposed to know what it is. But I'm going to trust you to not tell anyone else, okay? So that is one of 24 screws that hold North America in place.
That's not true.
Yep. He's like, no, it's not. That actually is the Thousand Islands observation deck. From the top, you can see about 5 miles in any direction. I will say this, that red curly Q that goes down the base, guys, that's not a water slide. I was so disappointed. It's the emergency stairs. I highly recommend you take the elevator. Now earlier I pointed out, or I talked about the bigger of the Thousand Islands. So now I'm going to point out to you the smallest of the Thousand Islands, this cute little guy over to the left. That is Tom Thumb. It's out of the water 365 days of the year, has 3 square feet of grass, and it does support a living tree. That 15 sign on it is simply how many people we can fit on that island at a time. We test it out every year, and every year we only get 15.
Yikes.
If you can actually read that sign, it says 15 knots. That's about how fast we're going. Now this is the part of the tour where I go over some commonly asked questions that we get asked. Some are good questions. You're probably asking yourselves the same thing, like what do the people out here do for water? What do they do for power? What do they do for sewage? Some of the other questions are not so great. As I go through the list, if you find that you are asking yourself some of these, please come see me and we will talk privately. What time is your 10 o'clock tour? How long is your 2-hour tour? Which side of the boat do I sit on to see the Statue of Liberty? When do we get to see the whales? From the top deck, how do I get downstairs?
What?
Guys, I'm not hiding an elevator. I wish I was. It stairs up, it stairs down. How do I get to the tunnels that connect all the islands under the water?
Okay, that's kind of...
Do all of the islands float, or are some of them connected all the way down? Yeah. While giving the tour, do you work here? So like I said, so those are some of the not so great questions that we get. Some of the better questions, we'll start with water. What do they do for water? As I said earlier, you're on one of the cleanest rivers in the world, so they use the river. We have an invasive species known as zebra mussels. They're about the size of your thumbnail. But those little guys, one mussel filters 2 gallons of water a day. There are billions of them in the river, so basically every 72 hours, you've got a new river. So they will use the river for bathing, dishes. Some will use a simple filtering system and they will drink the water. But not everybody trusts the river water, so they will go to the mainland with their water jugs, fill them up, bring them back, and that's what they will use for drinking water. I see you guys looking at the pink house over here to our left, so I'm going to tell you about it real quick. That was the set of the latest Barbie movie. No, not really. This is owned by retired Canadian pro football player Whit Tucker. He played for the Ottawa Rough Riders. There's a couple stories as to why it's pink, though. One is that his grandkids asked him to paint it that color, so he did. My favorite story is he took his whole family to Hawaii. They had such a great time that when they came back, they painted the house to match the resort that they stayed in there in Hawaii. Now, actually, while we're talking about Hawaii, if I could just give you a little tidbit of information about Hawaii, this could help you if you ever go there. Did you know that in Hawaii, you are not allowed to laugh out loud or laugh boisterously? You have to keep it to a dull roar or a low hop. Aloha. No. All right, back to the water. So like I said, some people don't trust the river water to drink it. Actually, if you... Oh, I drank mine. I don't have one. If you've been on board... Obviously you're on board. If you've had water today since you've been on board, you may notice that we gave it to you in a bottle. Well, the reasoning behind that, I'm standing up here telling you how great the river is, but yet we're not giving you cups of river water. We have done the research here at Uncle Sam's, and we know that there are 2 and only 2 types of swimmers in this river. The ones that pee and the ones that lie. For that matter, you will get bottled water on board.
Oh my god.
Now let's talk about power. Oh, he didn't like that joke. So let's talk about power. The majority of the islands out here get their power from underwater hydro cables. They start at the mainland and go island to island to island. The last island in the chain is Singer Castle, located on Dark Island. That is another tour that we do here at Uncle Sam's. It's our longest tour, 3.5 hours. But it's a pretty cool tour. If you've never done it and you come back to the area, definitely check it out. The castle is haunted. There's secret passageways. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Now, like I said, and once you get your island connected up, your whole island has power. But it can be pretty costly, $150 to $200 per foot. So not everybody wants to spend that kind of money. So what they will do is they will use solar instead, or generators. They will bring fuel out on their boats when they come out. Some people just come out here and they rough it, especially like on the smaller islands. In a few minutes, we're going to go right over one of these hydro cables, so you'll get to see one. It's not very exciting, but at least you can say you've seen one. So that leaves sewage. What do the people out here do for sewage? On the mainland, we have septic tanks underneath the ground. But as we've talked about out here, it's very rocky, so you can't do that out here. You can't dig down and put in septic tanks. So they have above ground holding tanks. They've gotten very good at hiding them, whether it be in a building or back in the trees. There's only one spot on the tour where they have their tank out in the open for everyone to see. It's a beautiful shade of green. It's got artwork on it. It's a highlight of the tour. I won't let you miss it. So what happens when these tanks get full? On the mainland, if your septic tank gets full, you call somebody, they come out, take care of it, you don't touch a thing, easy peasy. So what do these guys do? Do they pump it out under their boat, take it to the mainland and dispose of it? No, that's a smelly job, nobody wants to do that. But there actually is a group of guys that's exactly what they do. When you need your tank pumped, like at the end of the season like we are now, you call them, they come to you, pump it out onto the barge that they work on, take it back to the mainland and dispose of it. And they have a great sense of humor. They call themselves the Honey Dippers. They work on the honey barge, looks like a floating outhouse. They are the number 1 and 2 in the business, so if you need a card, I'm sure I could find one. They typically have silly sayings on their shirts like, we take crap from everyone, or you dump it, we pump it, things like that. Another common question we get out here is, do we have DoorDash? We do not. The closest thing we have to DoorDash, specifically speaking for Alex Bay, there are a couple of local grocery stores that if you put your order in, go park your boat at their dock, they will bring the groceries to your boat, you bring the groceries home from there. That's as close as it gets to DoorDash out here. Since we've been in Canada, you may notice that there are more trees blocking the homes from the river. That is because there are more restrictions over here in Canada when you're building on the river. One such restriction is that you can only cut down the amount of trees that it takes for the footprint of your home. Anything above and beyond that, you're going to be keeping those trees around. Now these underwater hydro cables that I was talking about, they're typically very well marked. They will have danger signs marking them. Basically looks like a picture of an anchor crossed out. Basically says, danger, do not anchor here. So as we come up here over to our left, you're going to see one of those danger signs and the lines going down into the water. It's going to connect up over here on the right where you're going to see another danger sign and those lines going down into the water. Now the reason for the danger signs, if you were to anchor on one of these lines, first off, it's a shocking experience, and secondly, if you damage this line because you anchored on it, you have to fix it. And as I said, it can cost $150 to $200 per foot. Now we are coming into one of my favorite spots on the tour. It's called Fiddler's Elbow. The very first guy to come out here and do tours on the river was a Captain Visger. He had a steamboat. And while your tour today is only 2 hours, his tour would last all day. So by this point of the tour, a lot of times people would either be sleeping or contemplating jumping off the boat. So he decided he needed to do something to spice up the tour, so he got in touch with his good friend Chauncey Patterson. Chauncey Patterson was a blind fiddler. He didn't know what he could really offer to the tour. But Captain Visger had it all figured out. What he would do is he would come out here in the morning, drop Chauncey off on an island with a blanket, and then he would go start his tour. By the time the tour got back to this point, Visger would stop the boat. Chauncey would play for the folks on board. The folks on board would throw coins on the blanket as a sign of gratuity. And that's actually how Chauncey Patterson made his living for quite a long time. I myself am also a musician, so this story always strikes a chord with me. Now we've seen a lot of markers and such as we've been out here, so I'm going to go over what some of these mean. You see red markers, green markers, circles with numbers. I'm going to start with the red ones. You're going to follow the 3 R's rule. Red, right, returning. You're going to keep the red markers to your right, returning from C. The green markers, green, right, going. You're going to keep the green markers to your right, going to C. The circles with the numbers, those are speed limit signs, especially for boats 40 feet and bigger. You really want to pay attention to those. If you are caught speeding, it is $1,000 per mile over the speed limit. Now we talked about being in the Thousand Islands area. Show of hands, how many people think we have 1,000 islands? A couple people? All right. Who thinks we have less than 1,000? A couple people? All right. Who thinks we have more than 1,000? Hey, you guys raised your hands more than once.
Well,
But here's the deal. Some of you didn't raise your hands at all. So this question's for you. Who doesn't care? You're on a boat ride. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, I got you. I got you. We actually have 1,864 islands out here. Yep, way more than 1,000. So why don't we rename it? Anybody ever have Thousand Islands dressing? That's why. That's a lot of salad bottles to put a new label on, if you will. So we just leave it Thousand Islands. Thousand Islands dressing does get its namesake from the area. There's typically 3 stories that float around as to how it came to be. The first story has to do with George and Louise Bolt. They were on their yacht. Their chef realized he had forgot the salad dressing for their lunch. So he went down below, threw some ingredients together, presented it to the Bolts. George fell in love with it, called it Thousand Islands dressing. The next story, which is the more true of the 3, there was a small local restaurant that was known for its amazing salad dressing. One of the cooks left, went to go work for Bolts, made the dressing for George. He had to have it in his restaurant, or in his hotels. It was so good. Called it Thousand Islands dressing. The last story has to do with fisher guides of the area. They would take their customers fishing for the day, come back, and at night they would cook their catch, make what is known as a shore dinner. They would dip their fish in a dressing that was kind of like a tartar sauce, but not quite. Well, George Bolt got his hands on it, fell in love with it, called it Thousand Islands dressing. So there's a few different stories for you as to how the dressing came to be. You can pick your favorite and tell your friends you know how Thousand Islands dressing got its name. Some more common questions that we get is, what is the average depth of the river? We can't really answer that. The best analogy that I have been given is picture a mountain range and put that under the water. And that's pretty much what we have. So some spots are high, some spots are low, but there is no average depth. The Canadian Palisades, as I said, that's 150 to 250 feet deep. We are going to go through another spot today that is 6 to 15 feet deep. It's much shallower. People ask, how do these guys out here get their mail? There's actually only a couple of townships that have a mail boat that will bring you your mail during the summer. Anybody else, you're going to have a P.O. box on the mainland just like everybody else. During the winter, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get your mail via the mail boat. Another question is taxes. How do you know whose taxes you pay? All the islands are part of townships, just like you would be part of a town. So let's say you guys have been waiting patiently. I told you that it was a highlight of the tour and I wouldn't let you miss it.
Okay.
Over here on the left, you have this lovely green tank.
Ooh.
It's got some artwork on it. That is an above ground holding tank. Is that everything you thought it would be? And more. So that sits on the back side
Oh,
of
that
Big
is so
Zavacon Island. Big
Before we
Zavacon
start
sits
again.
in Canadian water, and it is followed by Little Zavacon Island, which sits in U.S. water.
That's not a crop.
So, So that means that this cute little footbridge that goes between them, that is the world's shortest international footbridge.
Aww.
Now the guy that owns these, he comes out here during the summer for a month at a time with his wife and 3 daughters, 3 teenage daughters, for a month on an island. Yeah, they drive him nuts. So he grabs his dog and a 6-pack of beer, walks across that bridge, leaves them in another country. With that, we'd like to welcome you back to the U.S. We are currently coming across what is known as the Mud Flats. This is one of the shallower parts of the river, anywhere from 6 to 15 feet deep.
Okay, we're back in the
very
US.
muddy, very
We just
deep,
came from
so it's
Canada.
great for fishing.
Canada.
We have over 80 species of fish in the river.
Wow.
Just a few weeks ago, we
I
had
don't
our
see any
Elite
fish.
Pro Bassmaster tournament out here. I'm not a huge fan of watching them fish. To me, that's kind of boring.
Oh, wow.
But I do like watching them
fish?
come into town. You've got the trucks that match the boats. That's always really cool for me to see. So we have large and smallmouth bass, but we also have pike, mackerel, walleye, bullhead, perch, muskie. The world record muskie was caught near here, weighed in at 69 pounds.
Ooh.
It's about the same size as my 10-year-old. But that's not the biggest. The biggest species that we have out here is the sturgeon. So they grow upwards of 7 feet, can weigh 200
Wow, the
pounds.
sturgeon.
But they are endangered. They were hunted almost to extinction for their roe for caviar. So if you're ever out here fishing and you're lucky enough to catch one, we're going to ask that you do 2 things. The first is for your benefit. It's to take a picture. So when you're telling the story of reeling in this 200-pound fish, and your friends go, yeah, right, you can show them a picture and be like, see, I've got proof. The second thing we want you to do is to throw it right back in the river. This is why you need the proof. This way they can continue to make a resurgence. We're getting towards the end of the tour, guys. The jokes, they don't get any better. Some people say they get worse. Over here to the left,
Yeah, right.
this is Deer Island. This was owned
But
by
this-
a Mr. George Miller. Now, he was an interesting guy, considered himself an archaeologist, like to travel the world collecting things. He had his own personal library on the island, and he would fill it with things that he collected. So some of the stuff he had were samurai swords, a full suit of armor, one of the original copies of the Gutenberg Bible. Now, unfortunately, one day when he was not home, lightning struck, burned down the library and its entirety. We value that loss to be around $10 million today. Another cool factor about him is he was a member of the Skull and Bones Society. Anybody ever heard of them before? If you haven't, that's okay. They're a secret society, so they probably don't mind that you don't know who they are. They probably prefer it. But when you join these island to island cutting down trees,
The camera ran out of battery again, so
well, a guy by the name
it
of
had to
Seth
stop
Green,
recording.
the biologist, not the actor, approached him about buying one of these islands. He must have caught Cornwall on a good day because Cornwall said, I'll sell you all 3 for 24. That's exactly what he did. Now, if you know your New York history, you know that the Dutch purchased Manhattan Island from the Native Americans also for $24. This is how these islands got their name, the Manhattan Island Group. Now, not this home that you can see here, but behind this, there is a small, humble home back there. That is the original home that Seth Green built. It's one of the first homes built out here on any of the islands. Now that does conclude my narration of the tour today, but I have a few more safety things to go over with you as we get closer to the castle. So if you haven't been listening this entire time, that's okay. As I said, I've got 2 boys. I'm used to it. No big deal. But now's the time to listen in, so that way you know what you need to do. If you are going to the castle, once we get docked, you're going to go to the right. You'll see a sign that says entrance. That is where you will either have your ticket scanned or maybe buy a ticket to go in and see the castle. When you're done, and here's the most important part, when you're done at the castle, you're going to come back to the dock that we let you off on. You are going to be looking for our shuttle boat, the Sam 2. It's there every half hour on the 15 and 45 of the hour. It will take you back to Alex Bay. The very last shuttle is at 6:15. It will get you back to Alex Bay. Now, for everyone that is not going to the castle, your job is easy today. All you have to do is sit tight. We'll be docked about 5 minutes, letting people off, letting people back on, and heading back to Alex Bay. Now this part's for everyone. While we are docking, the best thing that you can do is just stay seated while we are docking. This is for your safety, this is for our safety. Do not stand on the stairs. Do not go to the bottom deck and stand at the back of the boat. This is where we're doing our docking procedures. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We've had a pretty good trip today. Nobody has been injured. Now with all that being said, when we are done and completely docked, Captain Jaden will get on the mic and let you know it is safe to get up and move around. This is when you can get up and exit the boat, either at the castle or at Alex Bay. Now speaking of Captain Jaden, let's give it up for him. He did a great job today.
Woohoo! I can't really clap. I'm holding the camera.
And my name was Danielle. I was your tour guide. Downstairs. Oh, thanks, guys. Downstairs, you had Tracy and Molly in concession. They helped you out with your snacks, kept you fed, kept you watered, hydrated. There, that word, hydrated. On behalf of all of us, we want to say thank you for choosing Uncle Sam's today. Thank you for touring with us. We hope you enjoyed your tour, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so the boat just arrived back at Alex Bay, and we're about to get off the ship. We're back at Alex Bay again. Alright. This is exciting, guys.
Ice for each different flavor drink.
They said Stacy.
Oh, Stacy did.
They should have ice for each different flavor of a soda in restaurants. So once our regular drink melts, we'll have a second.
Alright, let's go.
Alright. We're going. Okay.
All right, we're securely tied to the dock.
Let's skip to when the line ends. Okay, so we're back at Alex Bay, and we just arrived from the boat, and we're right here at the docks. And that's going to be it for today's video. Bye!